What's up, guys? Today on All Sports Sense, we'll be going over a final prediction on the Houston Texans. And this is a team last season. They ended up going 11-5, made it to the playoffs. This has been a team that hasn't done very well in the playoffs of the recent years. But how will they do in 2019 is what we're going over here today. Will they be able to break that slump and make a Super Bowl run? Once again, they went 11-5 in 2018. Deshaun Watson, very talented quarterback, is returning to this team, so that is excellent. Running back core really isn't the strongest part of the team. They got Miller and Foreman, and both of those running backs are sort of around the same skill, I guess you could say. Miller will probably get more touches as long as he can stay healthy. But it's not the worst running back core that we've seen in the NFL, but it's still not a standout position for this team. The top receivers include Hopkins. Obviously, he probably will be a top 5 wide receiver overall in the NFL this season. You also got Will Fuller, Kuti, but I think Hopkins will look to lead in this 2019 season. We'll be seeing a lot of touches out of him. Texans released Demaryius Thomas in February. He was from the Broncos, and they picked him up. But he was released in February, so that he's not with the team anymore. Really, the receiver core should be just fine. I mean, Hopkins, Fuller, really both of them can really handle it, I think. I mean, especially with Hopkins. That's a situation where I don't really think you're in too much trouble there. Best overall defense in 2018 was this team, believe it or not. I mean, some people kind of disagree with that. I mean, they didn't really look like they had the best defense, but overall, statistically wise, they actually had the best overall defense in 2018. Kind of a little fact there. That's kind of what one of the bright points of this team apparently is their defense, and I expect their defense to be just as good this season. And really, their offense is kind of average, but really, I mean, when your defense is above average, way above average, that's definitely a bright point for your team. Here's kind of what their schedule looks like. This is what I expect from it as well. You start off the season at the Saints. That is a tough game to start off the year. I'm going to give them a loss to start off the season. Just because, I mean, the Saints being at home, and they're going to be fueled up and ready to go, I think, coming into the season. They're going to be very motivated. I mean, over the last couple of seasons, they've had tough endings. And so, I mean, of course, that could lead one of two, or that could lead two ways, actually. You could be kind of in a slump because of that, or you could do really well because of that. And the Saints kind of did really well last season because of the motivation. But once again, it's tough to say as we're in the preseason right now. I'm going to give them a loss there. Jaguars at home, I'm going to give you a win there. Chargers then on the road, another very tough game on the road, and I'm going to give you another loss there. So you start off the season 1-2. Panthers and Falcons, I think you can get two good wins there at home. Both of those teams out of the NFC South. And both of them I do expect to be pretty good. So those will be two big, very important wins for the Texans as well. Then you got the Chiefs and the Colts, two difficult games on the road. And I'm going to give you two losses there as well. Really, the Chiefs, I think, are going to be a Super Bowl contender. And then the Colts, of course, also could be a Super Bowl contender. But they'll be right around the same skill level, I think, as the Texans will be. But just with it being on the road, I think you're going to get a loss there. Raiders and Jaguars, two more games. Jaguars are in a neutral location. I think that's London. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that game is in London. But yeah, Raiders and Jaguars, those two games you're going to get a win in. Then you got the Ravens on November 17th. That'll be another tough one. Of course, the Ravens, they're going to be really close to making the playoffs. AFC playoff picture is going to be very competitive next season, I think. There's going to be a lot of teams fighting for that one spot in the playoffs. I think, honestly, there are like 9 potential teams that could make the playoffs next season, but there's only 6 that can't. And the Ravens, of course, are all obviously one of them. The Texans will be one of them. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Colts, then on November 21st, that is going to be a win. You're going to win the second game of that series against the Colts during the season. Patriots, then at home. I think that's going to be your one home loss of the year. Patriots, I think, just are too tough of a team, and I think coming into that game, the Patriots are probably going to need it pretty bad. I mean, obviously both teams need that game in the beginning of December, but I think Patriots come in and they get a win there. Broncos, Titans, Buccaneers, and Titans, 4 games at the end of the season, and all 4 of them, honestly, should be wins. I mean, the one that I'm most concerned about out of there would probably be the Titans one on the road, just because you're playing them twice in 3 weeks for one, and then for 2, the Titans are honestly probably the best team of those 3 that you'll be playing in there. And so that could be a little bit of a concern, but I think overall you win those last 4, you come into the playoff, or you go into the playoffs swinging, so that's going to be big for the Texans. I mean, because you're going to go from 6-6 at that point to 10-6. And I think you go 7-1 home games, 3-5 in away games. Overall, final standing wise, you're going to win the division. You're going to win the AFC South, and you're going to be coming into the AFC playoffs with a number 4 seed and home field advantage in the wild card round. So really, overall, that's not a bad regular season considering. I think it's a pretty bumpy first half of the season. It's really tough, very competitive there. I mean, Saints, Chargers, even you could say Panthers and Falcons, Chiefs, Colts. That 4-game stretch in there from September to October is going to be very difficult. You're really going to need to win some of those games if you're going to want any shot at the playoffs. Because, I mean, really, even if the Texans, really though, considering if they do end up starting off kind of bumpy, that second half of the season, I mean, you do have the Ravens and the Patriots, but both of those are winnable games, Patriots being at home. And the Colts, of course. Really, that second half of the season is very winnable. You could sweep that, I think, honestly. But it's still a tough say at this point in the preseason. But I'm going to give the Texans a 10-6 record prediction here today. So 10 wins overall in regular season, pretty good. That's a little bit of a decline from last season. They were 11-5 last year in the regular season. Really, I think the Texans are much more capable of making a playoff run this year than they were last year. More experience is really what's key here. So let me know your guys' thoughts on the Texans in the comments below. Is this a team that you expect to possibly make a run for the Super Bowl? Let me know your guys' thoughts. We're going over previews right now for both college football and NFL. It is early August, so football is upon us, that is for sure. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central.